Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Paranormal Podcast. Again, I am Christina.
And I'm Anthony, and welcome to episode 2 of season 2 of our podcast.
Yeah, we've had a little break in the action, and we're back at it, and we'll explain why.
Yeah, we've had some interesting developments to where we have finally kind of started our passion of ours that we've always wanted to do, and now we're officially doing it. We are officially paranormal investigators now, I guess you could say.
Yeah, officially now, unofficially before. I mean, we've done our investigating ourselves.
Yeah.
But never have we gone out and done it for a client, done it at a business, or recorded it for YouTube or any of that good stuff. So now we have, and that's what we're going to talk about today on our episode.
Yeah, we're going to start a new kind of tradition here on the podcast, kind of like our version of an after show, where you can kind of see shows sometimes where they'll talk about what just happened. What we're going to do is anytime we do an investigation and we end up doing like a full investigation with a video on YouTube and all of that, we're going to do a wrap up where we talk to you guys about what we thought of the investigation itself, the place we went to, any history that is involved in it, our favorite pieces of evidence, so forth.
Exactly. And you know, this one was it's going to be hard to top, I think, because for a couple reasons. First of all, this is a haunted attraction that we went to, and it's in our local area. And when I saw that, because I had no idea, I've known of this attraction for many years, but I had no idea that they had their own paranormal activity there after hours, so to speak. So when I saw that, I definitely knew I had to approach them. And they're so great, these people.
Right.
Really, really great owner and the staff. And so it was really nice to be able to do something in our hometown, to be able to maybe shed some light on what's going on for a client. So you want to tell them where it was?
Yeah, the place that we went to is called All Saints Lunatic Asylum, a haunted attraction. Right. It is located in the town of Apple Valley, which is near where we live. And again, we want to give a huge shout out to everyone at All Saints for inviting us. They've been so welcoming and opening their doors to us. Right now, I mean, especially with COVID, like many businesses, they've been hit really hard.
Absolutely.
They had to close down their doors for quite a while. Thankfully, in California, restrictions are lifting enough to where they're starting to piece together their sets for the haunt. And hopefully, within the next few months, they'll have their attraction up and running.
Right.
But right now, because they're kind of in a transition phase, they had an opening for us to come investigate. We reached out to them. We were very open and honest about how we approached the paranormal. And we won't mention anyone specific, but there was actually a very well-known, popular, I guess you'd call him a paranormal investigator, who...
popular paranormal show, let's just leave it at that.
Yeah, he and his producers reached out to the owner of this place and immediately wanted to spin it as something to be afraid of, like there's some sort of demonic presence in the building.
A portal to hell.
Yeah, and she immediately shut that down because she's actually very proud of the haunted aspect of her haunt.
Right.
That there is something actually happening behind the entertainment aspect of her haunt. And that's what really drew us to it because, as we've talked about before, energy can really build up paranormal activity that is already existing. And the fact that this place is a haunted attraction really builds up. There's a lot of fear, but excitement at the same time that people are putting into the atmosphere when they go through this building. And for years they've been doing this. So that's a lot of energy to have built up.
Absolutely. There's a lot of factors to this haunt for me. And I just want to say that, you know, being able to go in there right now has been so great. And, you know, I also feel bad for the fact that they have lost so much time because they not only were a haunted attraction at Halloween, I mean, they had special events all throughout the year and for every holiday.
Yeah.
So they were a year-round haunted attraction that you know, where they're located. This is a small town.
Yeah.
Sort of off the beaten path sort of thing. But people, I mean, will come from all over because they're so well known and have such a great reputation for being a very scary haunt.
Yeah.
And not in like the biggest space either. So it was really great to be able to go in before they reopen things, and we'll talk about it more later. I don't think it's the last time that we're going to be going. So
no, yeah, we'll give you a little tease at the end, but we have had talks with the owners, and they're very happy with us in our investigation, and we'll get into that afterwards. But
yeah,
before we can get into that, first of all, we highly recommend that you go watch the investigation if you want to understand some of what we're talking about. It's on YouTube. I'll put a link in the description of this podcast, but we also have the YouTube channel linked on our site.
Right.
You go to that YouTube channel, and you will see our very first investigation is live. We also have some bonus clips there. We also have the unedited versions of each part of the investigation put up.
Right.
That way, you guys can actually see everything as it happened and know that everything is on the level, that we haven't added anything, edited anything in that we found. So,
and that goes to kind of what Anthony was saying, just so that you guys are aware of our investigative style. We are not approaching anything like, and everywhere that there's a haunting, it's got to be scary, it's terrifying, it's something evil, it's demonic. That is not how we operate. You know, spirits that are still here or left behind, however you want to look at it, we're just people in life.
Yep.
Every single haunting doesn't mean like what you see on TV, on some of the ghost hunting shows, that, oh, it's got to be an evil entity, everything's evil, or it's got to be a demon, you got to cleanse your house with this, that, and the other thing. And that's not how we approach it. We don't know what we're dealing with until we go. We actually, our biggest focus is on trying to communicate with the spirits left behind and see why they're there, who they are, what they need. Because honestly, that was the owner's main concern, was wanting to just kind of find out, okay, well, who are these people? Mm-hmm. You know, why are they here? Do they like it here? Are they happy?
Yeah.
Which, you know, we got some answers for them on that.
Yeah, and again, we always go into investigations with an open mind, and we never go in with the expectation that we're going to solve every question for the owner. Mm-hmm. We always inform the owner we are going to present the evidence that we find and give that to you and see how you approach it. But what was really like heartwarming for us and what made this investigation so special was that what the entities we were communicating with actually communicated with us.
Yeah, that was
great. And answered some of the questions that the owner had, which you don't always get in investigations. Sometimes, you know, spirits or entities could be kind of standoffish or wary of you. And it's understandable, because you're a stranger coming into their environment. This is their home, in essence. This is where they've chosen to be. So, going into the investigation, we had an open mind, but we also didn't go into it like many investigators probably would and think that everything is scary.
Right.
Which is ironic given the environment that we were in. But the area we were directed towards was called the Nursery.
Yeah, so we actually should tell you that we only investigated in one set area of the haunt, because they were in the middle of renovating their different sets, and certain things they want to keep to themselves with how the haunt looks. So I totally respect that. Yeah. So as Anthony mentioned, we were set up in the Nursery, and, you know, as far as creepy settings go, we were in a room filled with full child-size mannequins, lined all the way up and down the room.
Yeah, if you watch the video, you'll see there are just full-on sized childlike mannequins surrounding us the entire time. It's a very narrow space.
Right.
So you see the dolls everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what part of the haunted aspect of it. Luckily, they hadn't gotten to renovating that area yet.
Right.
So that's where they wanted us to focus our very first investigation. We were happy to oblige.
Absolutely.
Because we want to respect the owners of any property that we come to and their wishes. So we filmed in that one area. And let's just say that we were not disappointed with the level of activity. And I think it actually benefited us to focus on one area at a time. because we do believe that activity can travel. We don't think
Absolutely.
that activity is relegated to just one room at a time. And I think that once they got to know who we were, we actually even introduced ourselves before we started the investigation fully and told them our intentions. And we started trying to build a rapport with them so they knew that they could trust us.
Well, we also had an additional member with us that day.
Yeah.
That I want to mention because Anthony, as he said, we believe that things can sort of travel and move around even within a building.
Right.
But especially when you have someone with you who's sort of a beacon for spirits to communicate with, which we did have someone with us. If you watch the investigation, you will see. Her name is Allie, and she is an empath, and she constantly has energy around her, trying to get her attention. People trying to talk to her. People trying to talk to her when she's sleeping.
She's seen entities and had them talk to her. And it's been interesting. I mean, her gift has really been growing, especially this past year, interestingly enough, during this quarantine.
Right.
But she was never one to outright say that she was fully interested in the paranormal to begin with. It wasn't until she really started developing this gift naturally that she really started to okay, what's happening here, and she started looking into it.
I started accepting it too.
Yeah.
Because that's something. Imagine if you're constantly having people trying to get your attention or talk to you when you don't know what's happening. I mean, that's unsettling. Anyone who is a psychic or an empath will tell you, it's you have to be able to, first of all, accept that that's happening, and second of all, sort of control that level of communication so you can still have a normal life.
Yeah.
So bringing out Allie with us, we already knew, having investigated with her before, that it was going to draw people out quite a bit.
Yeah.
And that did not disappoint.
No,
at all.
Many of the pieces of evidence we caught was thanks to Allie. The two pieces of investigation that we did that really drew the most evidence, I believe, was the spirit box and the Estes method, which is using the spirit box but with headphones.
Right. Some people might call it sensory deprivation. It's called the Estes method for a reason.
Yeah, Carl Pfeiffer and Connor Randall, who you may know because we've talked about them before from Hellier. But they actually started out as the resident paranormal investigators at the Stanley Hotel in Colorado.
Stanley Hotel.
And because the hotel is located in Estes Park, Colorado, they developed this technique called the Estes method, where they would put headphones and a blindfold on and attach it to the spirit box, and whoever had the headphones on would be completely unaware of what was happening around them, what the other investigators were asking.
Right.
And they would just listen to the spirit box and repeat what they hear.
And in turn, the other investigators asking the questions can't hear what Allie's hearing. So it kind of cancels out what some people refer to as pareidolia when it comes to the spirit box. So we do both sessions with and without the Estes method. And if you watch the investigation, you will see that the communication that we get is absolute direct communication back and forth.
Oh yeah, full-on conversation. And even acknowledging certain things about us as investigators, like saying that you look just like your mother to one of us, to Allie, during the spirit box or the Estes method session. That's just one example of it, but they were fully aware of who we were.
Right.
Just like we were aware we were talking to these entities and these individuals. And that's another thing. And a little tip for investigators, always treat who you're talking to as a person.
Right.
As someone. Don't call it. Don't say that thing,
The entity.
Say, it's, the man, the woman, the person you're talking to. Make sure that you, acknowledge their identity somewhat, even if you don't know their name yet.
Right.
Acknowledge that they're living, or they were a living person, and that they, deserve your respect, just like any other person would.
Exactly. I mean, and that's the way I think you get the best results. I mean, if you're going to try and communicate with someone, you have to do it respectfully, or they're going to want to talk to you, and that's that way in life and that way in death. And that's the main thing I think to remember, and before I forget, I want to give people just a slight background. There is an interview in the beginning of our video with one of the staff members there, Stephanie.
Yeah.
Stephanie was great.
She was amazing.
They all were great, but I'm just going to shout out to Stephanie right now. And she gave us a lot of background information.
Mm-hmm.
And, here are some of the main things that they were looking at. They constantly hear knocking and tapping on the walls when nobody else is in the haunt. They had somebody who worked there before, and she was a pagan, and so is Stephanie, and we totally support everyone's different religion, so it has nothing to do with that. But I mentioned that for a reason I'll tell you in a minute. But the other person who was there before actually did a ritual there, a pagan ritual, to try and summon more spirits to come into the haunt.
Right.
And it wasn't necessarily like in some evil ritual per se, but it opened a door, they think, for some, maybe certain things to come in there. One thing in particular, a black mass that multiple people had been seeing in there that did not feel so chill.
Yeah.
And then Stephanie, I think, also, had mentioned they had, after the fact, done another ritual to try and get anything negative out of the haunt.
Yeah.
So there were those things that we were looking at when we were going into the investigation. And the other thing that Anthony alluded to earlier that we talk about is the fear factor. This is a professional haunt that spends their time trying to scare people. And that level of fear is one of the biggest emotions that can stir up paranormal activity.
Oh, yeah.
So all those factors made it a very intriguing investigation.
Yeah, and especially because, you mentioned the ritual that was done and their fear, or not fear, but worry about anything that could have come through. Because we approach things with an open mind, we're not opposed to the idea that there are non-human entities in spaces. Because we're not approaching this from a very religious standpoint, we don't go into the demon aspect right away.
Right.
Because we don't necessarily believe in demons in the religious sense. But we're not, closed-minded to the fact that there could be non-human entities out there.
Exactly.
So that's one thing we wanted to answer for the client, is to make sure that there wasn't something negative in the space, whether that was human or not.
Absolutely.
And again, going back to the pagan aspect, yes, Stephanie herself is a practicing pagan, and we respect all people's beliefs and cultures, and I think the pagan aspect is very interesting, and that there's not an inherently built-in negative aspect to paganism.
No.
That's what people, I think, always get wrong because of the culture we live in right now.
Yeah.
But paganism in itself is not evil, quote unquote, or bad. They're like any other thing in life. There is good and bad to everything.
Sure, of course.
And again, I'm not even saying that the other employee who was a pagan did anything bad or wrong. They just don't know what ritual she did in the space. And so their concern was that maybe she didn't close anything off, or maybe the ritual inadvertently invited something negative into the space.
Right, like the black mass that they had been seeing.
Yeah, so we set up light motion sensors to try and capture the area where the black mass had been seen kind of moving through. In our investigation, we really didn't see this black mass for ourselves. But again, we might possibly going back to those locations, so that doesn't mean it won't be there again.
Exactly. We heard plenty.
Yeah.
This is for sure from the very get-go of the investigation. We couldn't even get through our intro without a constant knocking, tapping on the wall, interrupting us. So
the building was empty.
Right.
The owner and Stephanie were in the separate security room where all the cameras are, so that they can see the areas of the haunt while people are walking through. That is a very separate area away from where we were.
Right.
So all the tapping noises, anything else we heard, that was completely paranormal.
Right.
That was nothing from us or from the owners.
Especially in our case, because we were in one situated area where we were sitting in very specific places the entire time. So we weren't up moving around, making noise.
No.
Anytime a noise was made, for example, one time Allie, she was sitting on a table
Yeah.
And had to move, and you could hear the table move. We note that in the investigation.
Yeah,
so,
we always might want to make sure we note things because it could be very easily misconstrued in a situation.
Right.
And again, that's why we have unedited versions of these investigations on our YouTube channel, because we want you to be able to see all those little moments.
Of course.
Because I think it makes the actual paranormal moments even stronger.
Of course.
So.
And, we should talk about a few of the paranormal moments that we caught.
Yeah.
When Allie was doing the SD session, we always have Allie, is the best person to do it because she's always attracting everything.
Mm-hmm.
The very notable thing that we had happen with her is, she has, this feeling of being touched a lot because they tend to sort of crowd her.
Yeah.
And there was a time when she was feeling like there was something right in front of her face. She could see energy, which she always does. And even when she mentions it, that, she sees a bunch of energy, the response from the spirit box right at that moment was, how do you know?
Yeah.
Because, they're like not maybe understanding how this is happening either. And then you can see 3 hair flips that happen on her shoulder, that somebody is literally moving her hair.
And you can definitely tell the difference between that and a natural movement, because at one point during this time, she actually moved her head.
Yeah.
And you can see the natural way that her hair fell when she moved.
Right.
And as soon as she stopped moving and her hair settled, you saw a third flip of the hair.
Right.
Like someone literally dragged their finger across her hair.
That's exactly what it looked like, yeah.
And this happened, like we said, 3 times.
Right.
And it was very interesting to see unfold. Especially because she, at the time, was saying she felt energy around her.
Right.
As if someone was kind of around her, and she actually felt someone tap her
headphones. The headphones, right?
Right before
like
that.
Were, as if you imagine someone saying, hello, excuse me, I'm here. That's kind of how it felt. Yeah. So,
and it didn't feel negative at all. It actually just felt like someone trying to get someone else's attention.
Exactly. And, another notable moment during her session was there was a hallway directly behind where I was sitting.
Right.
Completely pitch black hallway.
Yeah.
And, we were hearing all the different tapping and different things, footsteps, whatnot.
Yeah.
And during her session, she says something to the effect of, I don't know what that was. She couldn't understand what was being said in the spirit box. And, of course, we can't hear what's being said. So she's blindfolded. She says, I don't know what that was. And in the hallway, I heard a woman's voice.
Yeah.
At that moment, and at the time, live, I couldn't understand what it said. And I thought I heard a woman, and I even asked Anthony, did you hear that? Was that in the hallway?
Yeah.
Was that? And so we start talking about it, and then I actually hear footsteps in that same hallway.
Yeah.
And Allie, starts hearing things in the spirit box where she says hallway, and of course she had no idea what we were talking about, and she says, call her.
Yeah.
Like, we're calling to this woman. So we asked, ma'am, excuse me, what is your name?
Yeah.
And we got an immediate response that you hear outside of the spirit box. And she said, Reba.
Yeah.
Very clear, very loud.
Yeah.
When we get home and we're reviewing the evidence, when I had heard her initially, Allie had just said, I don't know what that was. And what the woman said in the hallway was, it wasn't me.
Yeah.
And that was totally outside the spirit box.
And direct conversation.
Absolutely. The back and forth during that little segment is really compelling when you see it all together.
Yeah, we won't give away everything. We would really want you guys to go watch the video because there's a whole lot more to that exchange.
Absolutely.
That we didn't hear at the time, but it actually correlates a lot with what Allie was saying.
Right.
And the noises we were hearing. As far as tapping and footsteps,
right,
which was happening the whole time. I don't think it stopped very much at all.
No.
But that was the Estes method.
That was, and I have to just note one more thing.
Yeah,
that was one of my favorites. I mean, there was so much that we caught that was said. One of the things that I wanted to mention before that I forgot was that not only are they just a professional haunt, but as they walked through and showed us the whole place, they're very, very authentic with their sets.
Yeah.
They have antiques from all over the world.
Yeah.
Some really, really old stuff. And the places that they get them from, too, is what makes it even more compelling.
Yeah.
There's one entire set that they had that was pulled from a mortuary chapel.
Yeah.
That had gone out of business.
Stained glass and everything.
The stained glass window, the church pews from the chapel. A lot of things that you would imagine would carry a lot of death energy, to be frank.
Yeah.
They also had an area where they had an old morgue table from a morgue that actually had been in a location where it was a hospital during World War II.
Yeah.
Where people were treated, for their war wounds and everything.
I believe it was a naval base, to be specific.
Right. And so I bring that up because at one point we use an app called the Spirit Talker app, which is like an Ovilus.
Yeah.
So, it spits out words, we don't use a lot of apps per se. We never have really thought they work too well.
We actually talked about this app in the last episode of the podcast.
Exactly.
So if you guys want to go listen to that episode and hear our thoughts on apps and that, but this app in particular is actually very eerily accurate.
It is. We've gotten some stuff on it that is in conjunction with Spirit Box sessions. And this is kind of what happened here, which is, we got the word Navy that came up. And at the time during that session, I think you can, Anthony said something to me about, don't forget, they have that morgue table that was, from this naval hospital or what have you.
Yeah.
So we just kind of left it at that. Then when we were doing the Spirit Box session later, the one that you can hear, not the Estes method, but the allowed version, where we ask, is there anyone here that was in the Navy? Because we had gotten that on the Spirit Talker, and we got an immediate response that you can hear very clearly that says, "Hey, I'm in the Navy."
Yeah, very clear male voice.
Very clear.
Which was interesting because the woman who identified herself as Reba definitely was a female voice.
Yeah, very distinctively different.
Yeah, so you can tell the difference. And I can't remember the gentleman's name that he identified himself with at the time. You'd have to go watch the video to get the specific. But it was interesting to hear, like, right away. And there was no hesitation. Hey, I'm in the Navy.
Yeah, it was right after.
The interesting thing too is having talked to the owners after the investigation. One thing that came up was we were asking about any of the objects that they use in the haunt or that are at the haunt in general. Do they feel a special attraction to anything there? Is there something in particular that they are attached to or that they feel a connection to? And at one point, the response we got on the Spirit Box was the journal.
Oh, it was so clear.
Clear
so
as
loud.
day, and very, to the point. Like, there was something about the journal. The owners are still looking into it, but they've gotten a lot of documentation over the years from the pieces that they've gotten from around the world. There was actually a name, and you'd have to watch the investigation again to get that name. But there was a piece, I don't think it was the morgue table, it was something else.
It wasn't. It was actually from the, I think the mortuary.
Yeah, the mortuary.
Lot.
And it came with paperwork for an individual who'd actually passed away. And they actually described that, some parts of him had passed away on that area. Which they were wondering if that kind of amplified the energy in that area.
Right.
And when we told them the name, it actually was very eerily close to a name that some of the actors in their haunt had given to an entity that they'd seen.
Right.
There are several actors that we were told that actually have seen this very specific entity near the mortuary area.
They had been seeing a Hispanic man, and God, there's so much that goes into this, but there was a Hispanic man. I think they had nicknamed him Jose, maybe.
Yeah.
I think that's what it was. And when Allie was doing her Estes method, she was getting sort of a mental picture of a Hispanic man.
Yeah.
And then as that was happening, we got the name Pedro.
Yeah.
And so we thought, well, could this be the person that these people are seeing? And he was even speaking Spanish on the Spirit Box session.
Yeah.
And then we got the name Tomas as well.
Yeah.
And I think it might have been the Tomas name, I'm not sure. But one of it was very similar to this paperwork they got.
They actually had his death certificate, I believe.
Right.
Because sadly, no one had come to claim any of his belongings.
Right.
So his death certificate came with some of the items that they had purchased.
Right.
Or collected. And they ran, when we told them this, to go find that certificate because his middle initial matched with one of the names we had gotten during
Right.
the session. And the first name actually matched, was very eerily close to the name some of the actors had given this
Right.
figure. So again, they're still looking, but we're very curious if any of this man's possessions included a journal
Yeah.
of some sort.
I feel very strongly that in all of the stuff that they have gotten, somewhere there's a journal there, because I think right before we asked that, we had said something to the effect of, because we didn't know if some of the entities, or now I'm saying entities, some of the spirits there
Yeah.
had been brought in through the pagan ritual that was done.
Mm-hmm.
And we said, have you always been here?
Mm-hmm.
Or did you come here after maybe this ritual had been done? And that we got a very loud, the journal. So I feel like there's a significance there to a journal.
Yeah.
That we're going to find somehow.
Yeah. And again, that could lead to our next investigation, which we'll talk about very quickly here.
Yeah.
We're nearing the end of this. We ever get very into this. This is always going to be our very special investigation.
Oh, yeah.
Not only just because it's our first live investigation, but because we got so many amazing pieces here.
Yeah.
But the last thing I will mention is, towards the end of our investigation, one of the main things that the owners wanted to know was if whoever was here was happy. That's one of the main things they wanted to know. So we asked point blank, are you happy here? Mm-hmm. And they said, happy? ? And we heard it on the spirit box. We said, yeah. Are you guys happy here? And they said, what? Very happy?
They said, so happy here.
So happy here.
Right.
And we started saying, oh, that's great. The owner, and we won't say her name right now, but the owner just always wanted to know that you guys were happy, and
she'll be happy to know that.
Yeah, and as soon as we said that, they said, cool chick.
Right.
And it was like a direct response to the owner who we were talking about at the time, because she's very passionate about this place.
Well, there was a very direct reference to this, that this is what really got to us after we told her about it. Mm-hmm. She said, they said that, cool chick, and the reason is, that night before we got there, she had been on the phone with her son. Mm-hmm. And she was having a conversation with him, telling him that she was going to do something for him when she got home.
Yeah.
And he made the reference that, oh, you're a cool chick.
Yep.
And she said out loud, I'm a cool chick. That's right.
She was so taken aback when we told her that's what we got. And we had she didn't tell us that this was conversation.
No, we had no idea that happened until after the fact, when we told her what we got.
Yeah, that was a whole separate conversation she had outside of this paranormal thing with her son.
Before we even arrived.
So they are with her when she's in this haunt. She always feels like there's people with her. She hears footsteps whenever she's moving through there. And this is also someone who has not always been 100% convinced of the paranormal either. She's always had one foot in and one foot out,
right,
trying to be rational and scientific about it, which is I think why she appreciated our approach also,
right,
because we didn't bring only Ouija boards and walking around with a camera. We actually brought scientific equipment to try and get to the bottom of what she was hearing.
We weren't about jump scares and just things that only you can say happen, but you don't have documented. It's like, she is definitely a very cool chick. I can definitely vouch for that.
Yeah.
And the reason why we can say that we definitely think we're going back is because we've had that conversation already, and we want to try and investigate a different area when we go back.
We don't know which area yet that will be available to us when, because they are still renovating. But there is one area in particular we really want to go to.
Yes, very much so.
We'll see if that happens. We won't give it away right now because we want to see what the owners think.
Right.
But they're very eager for us to come back.
Absolutely.
And soon. So you may be having another one of these episodes very soon.
Where we talk about it.
Because now that the episode is live and our evidence has been reviewed, they are very happy with how the episode came out. You can also see a bonus clip where we have a really interesting mist kind of appear over Allie during what was it, the spirit box?
I think it was the spirit box.
I think it was the spirit box session. But that's a short clip. You can see it on our channel. You can also see it on our Instagram and our brand new TikTok that we created for our podcast and investigations. So
we'll link everything.
Yeah, everything's linked in the description. Again, we want to give a huge shout out to All Saints and the owner, to Stephanie, everyone. Thank you so much for having us.
It was a great experience, and we look forward to having more.
Yeah, this is definitely going to be investigation close to our hearts and a location close to our hearts. We hope to have many more investigations there in the future. And we can't wait to share with you guys what we find next.
And for people who just want to go out to a very cool haunt,
yeah,
whether it's now, when they reopen, when Halloween comes around, if that's your thing, man, please come check out All Saints, because they do an amazing job there. People come back year after year, and you can even read about them on TripAdvisor.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're awesome.
If anyone who is listening to this travels from LA to Vegas all the time, who knows that route very well, get off on the Victorville exit and head to Apple Valley. And this is definitely something well worth the side trip for.
Yep.
This place is amazing. The owners are great. They're very welcoming. They're adhering to COVID restrictions right now as they're remodeling, so that people can still enjoy the haunt while being safe. They're very meticulous about that. They want everyone to still have an enjoyable but safe experience. And I think you guys will be very pleased with what they're building right now. So if you guys can, please go show them some support. We'll also link their social media down below. Follow them so that you guys can get the latest updates. And yeah, thank you for listening today.
Go check out the investigation, guys. You won't be disappointed, and we'll be back with more.
Well, that was it. I hope you guys enjoyed that, and we will see you for episode 3 very, very soon. All right. Good night, everyone.
Good night.